Yo, yo, my sovereigns, Bobaphet. So here we are just on the outskirts of Cusco. You might recognize this sort of mound area here from when we went exploring around the hills. To get here from downtown Cusco, you can take the tourist bus and pay about between 20 to 30 soles, or if you just walk 5-10 minutes out of the downtown area onto the main roads in and out, you just get the regular bus and it'll cost you 1 sole. So that's what I do. That's the road there that goes down to Cusco. This road continues on to Pisac, and there are two main tourist attractions here that the buses come for. One you can see over here in the middle, it's called Cristo Blanco, but what we're here for today is Sachsayhuaman, and I think just get a little bit of a sight up through there. I'm going to turn dual recording off because I can't zoom in on this. Alright, so that's Sachsayhuaman just there in the distance. It's probably the largest site in this area around Cusco. I mean, you can take a couple of hours out, you can go places like Ollantaytambo, Pisac, Urubamba, but just on the outskirts, it's like 15 minutes, the bus to this part. And that's where we're going to be going, into there. Okay, so just a 20-minute walk from where we last checked in, down this road. Some interesting scenery along the way, but as you can see just up ahead now, we have a better view of Sachsayhuaman. It is a huge complex. A lot of the polygonal megalithic stonework that we saw in the previous video from just random stuff around the hills. But yeah, this one is absolutely huge. And I wouldn't be surprised if the other ones as well, even though it's just like 1 and 2 walls, could be very similar to this. But on the other sites, maybe it's still all buried, mud flooded, whatever. But yet, this is where we're going. Okay, so as we came down this part here, we're now at the end of this roadway. As you can see already, we are in Wonderland. Look at that stonework. Polygonal, no mortar, all fits together perfectly. And this continues on. And this is just like the first layer that we can see. I mean, I'm standing on a mound here, as you can tell. Who knows what's underneath this? And then beyond this wall here, the entire site is just layers and layers of the same thing. But it does get much more interesting than this. We'll just pan left a little. And looky. Sachsayhuaman. Okay. Actually, as we're headed down, there's a bridge just down there that we'll be crossing over. But just while we're here, interesting to note with this stonework, there's actually two different and distinct levels of technology here. So there's the older, looser fitting, bulkier sort of rock work, and then there's this beautiful, incredible layer on the top here. And then as the terracing continues, we're back to the old. This is pretty much the complete opposite of what you learn in university when you're doing archaeology. In archaeology, we're taught the further down you go, the older it gets, and the more basic or less advanced. But the truth here is the opposite. And it's a mix match. Even the cathedrals in Cusco, like the Coroconcha and so forth, there's like stratigraphic levels of stonework that are like old, new, old. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. If you can see, like, there's the two very distinctive styles of construction. And here we are at the bridge that we were talking about. And there's Sachsayhuaman Greater continuing on up there. But also I just wanted to bring to your attention the pathway here that also leads up into the hills and beyond. Alright, still on this side of the canal, I mean, there's no other word for it. It is actually a canal. Even the bottom is constructed. But this is what we will be taking a better look at here with the polygonal megalithic technology. Okay, so we've crossed over the bridge and we're now looking at the other side of the canal, and you see it's exactly the same thing. Rougher hewer stonework bottom there, and this beautiful stonework the layer above it. Okay, as you can see from behind me, all of that construction. Look here too, the pathway that we were walking along, it's there's stuff here too, just hasn't been excavated. So all this big lump of dirt and rock that you can see, this is just like mud flooded, like there's stuff under here for sure. You can see like it's still layers just as much on the outside of the site as it is on the inside of the site. And as this canal continues on downwards, and the path we're on also continues that way, heading towards Cusco in the distance there. So we have combination of the canal work plus the land work heading down there, but we're not going to be continuing down this pathway. Going to chuck a righty here and head up into the actual site proper. Actually, just one thing before we do head up into the site proper, just want to show you this buttressing, or this part here. So as you can see, the wall continues around there. It's just the edge of what you can see. It does actually curve around, and I actually have a great view of that this corner right here. I have a great view of this from a distance from a hostel in Cusco, so I will post edit in here a quick shot of what this looks like, because it looks pretty amazing when you can see the whole curve area there. Alright, and just before we head in, just again here, the large polygonal megalithic work that you can see on the bottom, the Inca construction above that. So this is much older than the Inca, and the polygonal stuff, you'll notice, has no mortar. It all fits together perfectly like this. Okay, without any mortar. And then of course there's the rougher Inca work above that. Okay, let's keep the camera rolling here as we walk around. Get a bit of zoom out maybe. And remember too, all of this was done here at an altitude 3,800 meters, or if you live in the only country left in the world that still uses feet and inches, it's 12,000 feet. Alright, and this is another thing too, you notice when you do come to the tourist sites, I mean, these steps lead up to somewhere, and if you saw the previous video on the random sort of stonework around the Cusco Hills area, these once you get on top, above this layer of the polygonal megalithic construction, the stone outcroppings on the top are usually melted. Well, you saw them in the last video. So, but yeah, when you come to places like this, unfortunately, yeah, it's very, very restricted where you can go and what you can do. Okay, we're going to be continuing on up this path now. Okay, so there is a way up obviously later on. You've got to follow all the arrows to get higher up into this part here. But walking along the pathway, just came across this. So this is pretty amazing. So the stone wall sort of ends here, and then we just have this melted, cooked out chunk, But you'll notice that the polygonal megalithic construction ends here with this melted blob, and then from here on the wall is Inca. So yeah, whatever happened here, I would imagine this probably continued at a right angle inwards, because this is a different level of technology here. Also of note, this ancient waterway, this kind of old style aqueduct construction crisscrosses right the way through the entire Andes, from the Cusco area through Urubamba, Pisac, Ollanta, Tambo. And if we just follow this section here along, you'll see where it comes into a little reservoir collection here. Water would have run down from there, and look, you can still see what's left of this. This would continue to run underground through the mountains, kilometers and kilometers and kilometers. Like this stuff is all over the Andes. Okay, continuing on. This is something you see a lot of here too, the steps going up. But again, notice the different levels of technology in the construction. So we have the really old polygonal stuff, all fits together perfectly, Inca stonework on top, and we also have an intermediary level here too. So you'll see the large stonework, then also it's like slightly cruder, but still not utilizing any mortar, fits together, and then there's the really loose mortar Inca style technology. But no, it's all mixed in together. It's not chronological in the sense of a stratigraphic layering. It's quite mixed. It's quite incredible, really. And like I said, it's the complete opposite of what they actually teach you in archaeology. Okay, this cornerstone part here has to be quite interesting for proponents of the poured rock theory, where probably something wrong with the aggregate or the mix. Maybe it was too wet at the time. Personally myself, I'm not sure. I'm not totally convinced of the poured rock, but when you look at things like this, it does make a lot of sense. There's another interesting example here. All right, a little bit of metal used to run through that. It's just over time just rusted and oxidized away to a stain in the rock. That would have been metal running through there at some point in time. Okay, some more examples up here. There, that oxidization. Oh, looky. Continues right through to the other side there. I can't know if you can tell or not here, but the sides are perfectly smooth all the way through. And pulling out from here, going a little bit of Inca fill or repair work in this polygonal technology here. And here's a great shot of that canal that we were following along to get here. Again, you can't really see the canal from here, but this is the stonework I was showing you when we were down at the canal, and I says like the wall work just continues, and you see if I pan out here, that's a huge mound of dirt there. On top, that's the Cristo Blanco up there, by the way. But yeah, huge mound of dirt. Guaranteed there's something under that. Guaranteed. Alright. And moving on. Alright, so from the last point where we were, I've just walked probably about 5 minutes along this road here. Hasn't been a whole lot of interest to show, that's why I wasn't filming, except scattered remnants of this. And consider too, like, the effort required to go into this, like, this isn't it, just it. This is just a part that survived or was preserved when whatever happened here happened. I mean, obviously this continues underneath the mound, totally mud flooded. The reason I've started recording again though is because it does pick up again and we have some more consistency in the wall work, and pretty soon we'll be on the corner that I was showing you before in reference to the corner that I can see from the hostel. But just look at the randomness of what's left. You've really got to wonder, like, you know, WTF happened here? Just a couple of random scattered rocks, which of course are not random and scattered. It's like, you know, imagine some kid's just built himself a little city out of Lego and then has a tantrum and just kicks it all across. That's what this place looks like. It's just been devastated by whether it's a realm-wide reset or, you know, we just don't know. And because we have a mainstream historical narrative, people just go, oh yeah, okay, and don't ask any more questions, which is why we don't really know what happened here, because no one's interested in finding out. They think that they already know what happened and don't ask any further questions. That's the problem. Alright, as you can see, great view of Cusco from the corner area here of the buttress. And down there is the central downtown La Plaza de Armas. Great view. And my hostel I'm staying at is about here somewhere. And a little bit of wall here. Obviously this is mud flooded to the max. It's she was just having a quick chat with the resident archaeologist here on site. It's the guy there with the hat and the jacket, and we were discussing the anomalous stratigraphy at the site, and he says that it does actually go down. They've excavated to a depth of 3 meters so far, and the wall does continue down for 3 meters, which is the complete opposite of what it should be if you're following Archaeology 101. Alright, so this is an area that's currently under excavation, as you can see, and as it goes down, this rock, as I say, 3 meters down so far. But real interesting. I'd love to work on a site like this. There we go. And now we're just going to continue back down the same way that we came. See you on the other side. Okay, this is interesting. See this little, so again, part of an ancient aqueduct system. I'm guessing this runs all the way through the wall to the other side. Let's go take a look. Should just zoom out a bit here. Yeah, you can actually see down. Look at that, huh? Look at that. Isn't that absolutely incredible? Guessing that's like 5 meters of that stone cut, perfectly straight cut all the way. We'll see if we can find that again on the other side. And just for some scale perspective, just this few minutes that you've been watching already, I've been here for an hour and a half just to get this so far. Alright, just some additional perspective. This is that little hole that we peeked in just there, and wall comes around here. Have a little bit of a walkway. The wall continues. So this is how far that keyway actually runs through all of this rock here. Alright, I'm going to go up there. So yeah, about 5 meters, I'm guessing, thick there. We're going to go see if we can find the other side of that keyway that we were looking through. There it is. It's a little higher on this side, and I think, here we go, this is the one. There we go. Alright, so again, there's the keyway. This continues on, and this is where Sachsayhuaman gets real interesting. And oh, there's another one, so zoom in on that. Up there, it runs through. That's too high though, so it's enough. No, probably 3 meters up. So we won't be peeking through that one. But yeah, as you can see, the site gets real interesting from here. And remember, they did all of this 3,800 meters above sea level. And that's just that slope that we were looking at from the bottom. And look there, there's another little rock missing, or a keyway, or perhaps something was in there at some point in time. A little bit of Inca repair work in the polygonal megalithic technology. This is the highest level that we have access to here in this site, unfortunately. And as you would know from my previous video, the really interesting stuff is actually on top of these walls. So like, you know, whatever happened, like you saw those carved or chair or whatever type constructions that we saw on top of the wall on the previous video. And this site being so big, it would be incredible to see what's on top of all of this. But yeah, unfortunately, access denied. Yeah, so it's a problem with these sites. Like, you know, you pay to get in and you have very limited access compared to the stuff you can just randomly find in the hills, which is completely free. There's another little keyway running through there. Look at that, huh? And look at the iron oxidization around. Even on the inside, you can see a little bit of iron oxide, indicating the presence of metal at some point in time that a long time ago has just turned to rust and disappeared. And look how this all fits together perfectly without any mortar. Again, proponents of poured rock theory would really love to come here and see some of this. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. You can actually get a bit of a peek through here. Again, so there are layers on top of this layer, but yeah. Oh, I'd love to get a look up there. I wonder if it's worth getting kicked out for. Maybe just roam around a little bit, see a bit more of this, and then, I mean, what have I got to lose? What can I do? The worst they can do is kick me out, huh? So I'll wait till I'm finished here. I totally want to take a look up there to see what's there. Okay, that's where we were. We're just sort of around the corner there when I was looking up at those steps, and then down here, this reminiscent of a lot of styles of what you see in ruins that they call amphitheaters. Of course, nothing to do with entertainment or sport or anything like that. This is all about sound. And look at those two bad boys there at the entryway to this. And again, look at those two big bad boys there. This is all about solid sound resonance with whatever. This stomach here would have been coated or plated with something. And if we pan around from here, just zooming out, you can see just how big this place actually is. I mean, there's more and more over there, and might not look that far away here on the camera, but trust me, it is. And it's quite a drop down. as well from where I am across to there. I mean, you could spend a whole day here and not even see half of what's available. What is interesting though, that I'll get over here. Again, as you know, I love this melted rock stuff that you can see here. So what you're looking at here is exactly the same as what you're looking at here, except something's just blasted the crap out of it. Again, proponents of reset, you'll understand what I mean. And we don't know whether it's natural or caused, but again, hard to tell from this distance, but I can, even from here with my eye, I can clearly make out the stone blocks. But we will take a closer look at that at some point. We're literally going to be walking and working our way around from this buttress here across there, and look at this stone outcropping. I mean, again, this is fascinating stuff to me. It's so decapitated from whatever blasted it that it looks like a level of natural rock. But you maybe if I zoom out a little bit, you might be able to see it. There's definitely, to my trained eye, I can see like levels, layers, blocks. Yeah, whatever happens during these resets, it's pretty intense. But again, we will take a closer look at that too. But in the meantime, we're going to carry on up the pathway here, check out this wall, and I'll stop and film anything that looks interesting. Okay, just wanted to highlight here the corner piece. Again, proponents of poured rock theory would really relate to this, how you get that natural curve out of the rock and still all able to fit together perfectly. Again, down the bottom here, some examples maybe of a bad mix. We just don't know, unfortunately. Okay, and here's another example of what we looked at previously with the quote amphitheatre unquote sort of style. We have a little bit of the amphitheatre sort of levelling sort of here, but then it comes back to wall. Once again, look at the entryway. Two big bad boys right there for the sound and resonance frequencies. Alright, so I did actually take a quick scramble up the side of the hill here. It looked like I had a clear shot down around, so I took it. And look at this. This is where I climbed up from here. But as it comes down, looky. So cross back over here into the actual site. And there's a little rest area. And there is access to the top here. Maybe I should just have a little bit more patience and follow the pathway. But anyway, let's check it out. Okay, interesting add-on here. That stone outcropping I was talking about before. There's a bunch of people on top up there, so there's definitely a way up. We'll find that way later also, and we're most likely going to find something very similar to that melted, carved out stuff that we saw at the top of the other places in the hills. All called temples, of course. That's the thing with the archaeology. Everything's a temple or a tomb. But yeah, we'll take a look at that a little later also. Alrighty, and just looking back over here, I just want to bring to your attention also the stratigraphy here. We're up like that level, the Inca sort of style level, bottom two. Can't see it that clear from here, but we will when we get closer. But from the bottom, so 1, 2, 3, that is the perfectly fitting mortar-free level technology wall. But the two below it and the one above it is Inca style technology. Again, it's the complete opposite of what should be if you're following Archaeology 101. This place is just incredible. The archaeologist that I was talking to on site on the bluff, he was just as blown away himself. He says, yeah, well, we've been doing this for years, but none of it makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all in Archaeology 101. It's just as baffling to them as it is to me looking at it from here. Alright, we're going to continue on. So it gets quite interesting up there, and always the most interesting stuff is right on the top. Remember, these are just walls, So, you know, walls for layers. So all of this earth that's just dumped on top of this mud flood area, inside, like underneath all of that, is construction, is building. We're just looking at the remnants of what's left of something absolutely incredible. All right, we're going up there and we're going to take a look along the top.